Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "The coming of the Son of Man will repeat what happened at Noah's time. In the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and getting married, right up to the day Noah entered the ark. They were totally unconcerned until the flood came and destroyed them. So it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be out in the field. One will be taken and one will be left. 2 women will be grinding meal. One will be taken and one will be left. Stay awake, therefore, for you can be sure of this: you do not know the day your master is coming. If the owner of the house knew when the thief was coming, he would keep watchful eye and not allow his house to be broken into. You must be prepared in the same way. The Son of Man is coming at a time you least expect." The Gospel of the Lord.
Alleluia, 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 alleluia.
This weekend, the season of Advent begins, as it does every year, with Jesus speaking to us about his second coming and urging us as his followers to live our lives in readiness for it. The Lord warns us that he will come unexpectedly, with all of the suddenness of a thief in the night. That phrase, thief in the night, brought to mind an experience I had 15 years ago in my previous parish. It was Labor Day weekend, Sunday night. I had gone to bed early because I intended to get up early and wash my car and wax it. It was about 3 a.m. in the morning when I was awakened by a noise. At first I ignored it, thinking that possibly it was just my imagination. But then I heard it again and a third time. So I decided to check it out. As I walked to the head of the stairs, I was still convinced that it was probably nothing. As I started down the steps leading to the living room, my bedroom was on second floor. As I started down the steps leading to the living room, the noise started up again, and I realized that someone was in the house. In an attempt to scare off the intruder, I shouted, "Who's down there?" Now, that wasn't a very smart thing to do. And I don't know why I did it, because I certainly didn't expect the thief to give me his name. When the pounding continued, I retreated to my bedroom and called 911. Within a matter of about a minute, the sheriff's department was on the scene. Fortunately, they happened to have a car in the neighborhood at the time, and they arrested 2 young guys. One was in the house. The other they had spread-eagled on the lawn. And the deputies told me that they were going to have to search the rectory to make sure that nobody else was in there. Well, the search went fine until it got to my office. Now, as anyone who works in the parish staff can tell you, I don't keep a neat office. I mean, I try to, but it just doesn't work for me, you know. Anyway, when the deputies saw how messy the office was, they thought that it had been ransacked and that possibly someone was hiding in there. So they drew their guns and shouted for the intruder to come out with his hands on his head. When nothing happened, they shouted their instructions again. And after a few tense moments, the deputy turned to me and he asked, "Father, does your office always look like this?" To which I truthfully and humbly answered, "Well, not always, but a lot of the time." Here's the thing. Had I known that that night I was going to be visited by a couple of thieves and that was going to result in deputies searching my house, I can assure you I would have straightened up my office in preparation to make sure that it was in better order. There's a lesson in that for us on this first Sunday of Advent. The Lord urges us to live our lives in readiness for the day of His return to us in glory. We might ask ourselves, what does that mean? Well, we get the answer in this morning's readings. The first reading reminds us that, as a people of faith, we are to spend our days here on earth walking in the light of the Lord. And in the second reading, St. Paul spells out for us exactly what that means. He tells us that it means for us to cast off deeds of darkness, deeds of jealousy and anger and hatred and unforgiveness and indifference toward God and other people. Truth is, there's a lot of messiness in all of our lives. There's a lot of unfinished business when it comes to living the faith. All of us would like to make changes in our lives. And there are changes that all of us need to make if we are to become better people and closer to God. The question we need to ask ourselves on this first Sunday morning of Advent is this: if Christ were to return tonight or tomorrow morning, what changes right now in our lives, what changes would we need to make to be ready to greet Him? Whatever those changes are, and whatever they involve, that's where the Lord is personally calling you and me to repentance during this Advent. As He warns us in the last line of this morning's Gospel, I am coming to you at a time you least expect. God bless you.